Welcome to the Prospect Warehouse podcast. This is your host, Tim Kanak. You can find me on X at Fantasy Aceball. If you're watching on YouTube or Xvision, you already see who we have today. It is Ross Jensen at Ross Jensen on the X, the boss man, the Hefe. John doesn't like when I say Hefe because he's like the heifer. And I'm like, dude, you are such a gringo, man. The boss of Scout the Statline, the boss of Prospects Live. Ross, you got so many things cooking that I can't even I don't know. It would probably take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to go through a list of all the things that you do.
Well, yeah, I'm a busy guy. I guess I'll take that one. That's for sure.
Yes, but it's all good things. We have the F scores now implemented too over with you guys. So make sure that you subscribe over on Scout the Statline so you can get the consensus rankings over there. Make sure you subscribe to Prospects Live. So if you're not following Ross, do so now because this guy is a prospect wizard. And I would definitely follow Ross and check out. He's been doing daily posts on a prospect, like a daily prospect thing this offseason. I've been following along with that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was all leading up to my top 100 prospects drop. And I added all those little videos into one giant X thread. As is normal, I totally screwed it up and I grabbed the wrong set of rankings when I posted it. It was just one guy in there that I meant to remove, but I ended up correcting it. It's fine, but in that thread, you've got every single player detailed a little bit, so it's all free. Go check it out. And give a follow if you enjoy it. If you think it sucks, then tell me so and give me a follow anyway. Why not? I don't know.
Yeah. I almost played a joke. I was telling Doc, I was like, should I invite Ross on to do the pitching prospects with me since he loves pitchers so much?
Well, my attitude on pitchers is evolving a little bit, and part of that is probably because that's my biggest need for most of my dynasty leagues. I tend to go with where my needs are, and so I've been doing a lot of research, and I really think we've advanced our pitching a lot on Scout the Statline over the last year or two. So, yeah, I'm back in on pitchers. So, I mean, I'm still a little hesitant. I probably have about somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 my top 100. So a little bit lower than probably what you generally find, but not extreme like it used to be.
Yeah, well, John had on Derek Carty on the show, I think last week, and they were talking about the new model for pitchers that he has with Bat X. And he was talking about how he implemented like gravity and stuff like that into the pitching metrics to create his own stuff that helps generate the projections. And it's funny because they were talking about some of the guys that the Bat X was high on for pitchers. And it's like a lot of the same guys that F scores are high on. So that made me feel pretty warm and fuzzy inside because he was like, Chase Burns is is like an ace already. And I was like, that's exactly what F scores has been saying. That's what I said. Like, I'm like read number 12 for redraft. So like that made me feel a little warm and fuzzy that the Bat X projections are kind of like a little bit in line with like what the F score stuff was pumping out.
I mean, I think that's just formulated rankings in general. He's if you count him as a prospect, I mean, he's exhausted his service time, but he's still under the innings pitched threshold. So in our model, he still goes into the prospect ranks and he's number one. He's above Connor Griffin. So that's pretty insane. But he's a hell of a talent if he gets enough innings. That's the big end. Like he's definitely going to hit his ratios. He's going to strike out a ton of guys. I think there's insane amounts of talent there, but he's got to pitch enough. He's got to stay healthy and he's got to get enough innings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are like rumors out there now that they're going to like piggyback him against Louder. They're like, oh, we'll just have Louder. I don't know if you've seen that. They're like, we might have Louder start in the rotation for the first like month or two, and then have Burns in the bullpen and then build up as the year goes on so that they have Burns for the playoffs at like full strength, which, kind of interesting. I hope they don't do it because I have a lot of shares of Chase Burns, but, kind of interesting, I guess, from a real life perspective. But we're not here to talk about pitchers. We're here to talk about shortstops today. So we're going to get into my top 20 shortstop rankings. Ross, feel free to poo-poo on some of my rankings or like guys, or if I'm like way too low or way too high or whatever on guys, that's, feel free. But we're going to start back at number 20, and we each have one guy that we want to talk about between the number 20 through 16 rankings here. And I'm going to throw this up on the screen. So if you're watching on Xvision or whatever, you can check this out. But here is the top 20 rankings. Number 20 is Arjun Namala. Number 19 is Carson Williams. Yes, still a prospect. Number 18, Steele Hall with the Reds. We got two Reds here back to back. Number 17, Tyson Lewis. And number 16, George Lombard Jr. The guy that I have selected to talk about today is Mr. Tyson Lewis, partially because I've seen him live. So I have not seen Steele Hall yet. I'll probably see him this year too, because the Reds are in Daytona. They're kind of like right down the street. So Tyson Lewis, I did see live last year. And I'll tell you, this dude is a very impressive physical specimen. Now, as far as like contact tools, like he did look like the 59% contact rate that's in front of us right now on the board. So that's definitely what he looked like swinging at the plate. But he did, when I saw him, I think he was only in A-ball for like a week or something at that point. So he hadn't really quite warmed up to A-ball yet. And it'll be interesting to see how he adapts his first full year in A-ball at full season ball. I don't expect him to like break into high A next year. I think that he's going to kind of revisit A-ball before he gets the promotion to high A. But Tyson Lewis is super interesting because the power and speed is for real. 92.4 average EV at low A, 105.8 90th is insane for a high school guy, 112.3 max. And this is a shortstop. So these are all really great exit velocities, 8 steals too. So he can run a little bit. But definitely inconsistent in the play. Definitely, not the greatest contact rates. And he was especially bad looking at the splits here against lefties. 143, 130, 22 plate appearances. So super, super small sample size. Can't really like count anything off of that. But it's definitely not good against lefties. Whereas righties, he kind of held his own a little bit. 292 batting average still against righties, even with a 61% contact rate. So that just kind of goes to show like how hard he was hitting the ball. 80% barrel rate is still okay. But Tyson Lewis, very interesting player from a power speed perspective. It would be interesting to see if he can actually develop the hit tool or not. Where are you on Tyson Lewis? Because I know you're more of like a hit tool first kind of guy when you're looking at prospects, and that's like the opposite of Tyson Lewis. He's kind of like going on Spencer Jones shortstop street here, but
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what the Reds are doing right now, and we skipped right over Steele Hall, but another one of those guys that is really electric sort of talent. We'll see how it pans out. He does have some concerns. Strikeout rates are high. That's something you definitely have to watch. I was reading a scouting report that said he had rumor mill stuff, 119 mile per hour exit velocity at some point. That's insane, especially for somebody as young as he is and was last year. So I think it's an exciting talent. I think your placement probably makes sense. I think there's a lot of risk associated with this particular profile, but if it clicks, you have, potential star talent right there.
yeah, for sure. I comped him. I mean, like it's a red and a red, but like I comped him to a bigger lefty, Matt McLean. I'm like, okay, power, speed down the middle, kind of has like McLean mechanics from the left side. And then like McLean's obvious flaw right now, unless he fixed it because he's been ridiculous this spring so far, is the hit tool. So like maybe you just get that as a shortstop from the left side. Could be kind of interesting. You get a couple. I mean, I guess you probably won't play shortstop with the Reds because Ellie, unless they move Ellie to the outfield, probably Tyson Lewis is an outfielder. If just assuming that Ellie would stick it short. But yeah, like you're not going to displace Ellie if Ellie wants to play short. I don't think.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Yep. All right. So your guy that you have on the list is Mr. George Lombard. So George Lombard, I really like more in like real life or for points leagues, just because he's like really like a really great plate skills, but not really loud power to date. He does run a little bit, like more than one might think, and he's always been like ahead of level. So there's a little bit of like a Cole Young type feel for me with him, where it's like Cole Young was always super young for each level, and it's like the stats don't blow you away because he's always being challenged. Like they're not going to just let him like it's like a video game. They're gonna let him just like count up, like collect counting stats just for fun, just to like make him feel warm and fuzzies. Like they're just always challenging him. And Lombard was 19 last year playing at Double A, so like we have to give him some cred for that. But Lombard, how do you feel about him? Because like for me, I'm like, okay, points leagues, I guess, but like for other leagues, I'm not really so sure this is a type of guy that I want to go after in like a roto league.
Man, I don't know. I picked him because it's super interesting to talk about him, but the range of outcomes here seems pretty large. You're right. Young for levels, every level he's played. The hit tool has been spotty. Sometimes it's been really good, and he's had some flashes in spring training, I think, as you probably recall, where he's looked extremely good. Last year in high A, he was completely crushing it. And then it's like he went to double A and he just, face planted. He just really struggled trying to hit consistently there. He did well enough that, I don't think it's a huge red flag necessarily, but it's just a very interesting profile. And I think a lot of people are saying, as you just mentioned, this is a better real life ball player probably than fantasy. But the power potential is there. He does have speed. 35 stolen bases last year is quite a bit, and 39 the year before. So he's an interesting one. He gets a comp in the STS model to Cameron Maben. What do you think of that?
That's interesting. I mean, I comped him to like an old school player too. I comped him to Barry Larkin Light, is what I threw on him. Very, very similar play to like I like to always look at mechanics too when I'm doing my comps, not like just like batting lines. So sometimes people will be like, "How did you get that?" And it's like, well, like they have the same batting stance. Like a lot of times is like what I'll be looking at, or if like they're the same size, same position, kind of like similar mechanics. Like I'll kind of like lean towards certain ways. But yeah, I threw a Barry Larkin Light on there, like very kind of like approach wise too. But Maben, I like that. That's interesting because like, yeah, speed, gets on base. Maben did have like one power. Didn't he have like one season where he had a ton of homers? Or am I misremembering that? Like
Uh,
oddly, like oddly, he had like one really good, like one season with a ton of bombs.
I can't think of like a 30 home run type of season ever in there. He always was one of those, but I mean, I don't know. I can't say I remember off the top of my head his full career, but he was one of those guys that you always wondered if that was going to come because he was so athletic and, such an interesting talent, but it didn't
11
quite
home
all
run
come
max.
together.
And this was what I was thinking of. In 2019, he had 11 home runs in half of a season. He only played half a season that year. So
Okay.
that's what I was thinking of.
That's getting up there. Okay. Yeah. I'm pretty intrigued by Lombard, but also I'm a little hesitant. I think people are getting really excited about him without much evidence to back it up. I was reading some comments somewhere about like, bring him up, replace Volpe. Let's just get that done. And I'm sorry, but that's a little premature. Like at least he was a good ball player in AAA before he became a major leaguer. You got to at least see what these guys can do at higher levels. So don't get too excited quite yet. I don't think he's necessarily the future now, but maybe down the road.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like 72% contact rates, okay. 15% walk rate is insane. This is one thing that I like is a 122 extra base hit plus. So while he only had 9 home runs, he wasn't getting into home run power. He was at least getting into doubles power. So that's pretty solid. So I do like that. At 158 age adjusted WRC plus too. Because like I mentioned, he was 19 at double A. So like he's going to get that age adjusted bump on the WRC plus level from our stuff at MLB Data Warehouse. So let's get to the next 5 here. Group of the next 5. We've got at 15, Franklin Arias, 14, Emil Morales, 13, Dax Kilby, 12, Josuar Gonzalez, and 11, Eli Willits. So we got some first-year player draft guys here. But you're going to stick with your boy, Franklin Arias, who is a super interesting prospect. Hit first guy, amazing plate skills. Actually had a really great defensive play today. So he's got a glove too, even though some people are like, I think he's going to move to second. From what I've heard, and like I think I talked to Ponce about it. And I don't want to put words in his mouth because I can't. I think it was Ponce I was talking to about this when we did like the third or second base ones, and I think that they said that it's the arm that you have to worry about with Arias, not like the glove, but like the arm. If he'll make it
Mm.
as a shortstop at the major league level, but he did make a really nifty double play where he didn't even touch the ball with his bare hand earlier today. But yeah, really interesting profile here for Arias. So have at Ross.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Hit tool is the calling card from an offensive standpoint. He does have a very good reputation as a defender as well. I love the plate discipline. Doesn't strike out much. He doesn't walk that much either, but he's making contact. There's at least some possibility that he grows into a little bit more power, and that's always something that I'm looking for and trying to hunt out in prospects. So I like this profile from that standpoint. He's got a really good foundation. Career 299 hitter in the minors. Last year, he made his way as a 19-year-old up to Double A, which is pretty impressive. He struggled there in his small sample size. Spent most of the season at High A. So, yeah, he's just a guy that I've always been pretty high on, from the get-go. So he's just one of my guys. I wanted to highlight him because I feel like you have him a little low here compared to where I'd like to see him.
Yeah, I've got him in my prospect rankings as 75 overall. I had him at 54 in my last ranking. But I dropped him purely because like the power kind of started falling off. He was showing more power earlier in the year when he was at High A, and then it kind of like started down ticking a little bit once he got to Double A. Again, young for the level, just like Lombard, right? Like he was 19 in Double A. But and again, 19 in Double A. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see his contact rates here. 87.2% contact rate as a 19-year-old Double A is absolutely like ridiculous. So you can't complain about the contact rates. 88.9 total on the season. The dude does not strike out. So what you're looking at here is basically like a Jacob Wilson / Luis Arias type profile for Franklin Arias, which is going to play amazingly in points leagues. But in roto leagues, if you're only getting like 10 bombs and like 5 steals, it's just kind of like, it's like it's useful, but there's going to be a cap to that. You know what I mean? So like I think that's why I'm a little bit lower on him. Is I think that he's just the type of player that has like a ridiculously high floor, but the ceiling is like not super high, and it's just like there's power speed guys in roto leagues that you'll take ahead of him. But if you're in a points league, for sure, this guy's probably like a top 40 guy or something if you're like playing points, in my opinion.
Well, as is the case with, I think, like half of these guys, it's all about whether the power comes or not. And I think that that's really the key with Arias, too. I'm probably a little bit more optimistic that it could happen. But then again, if I had to compare him to like a Lombard, I would say it's probably more likely for a Lombard to grow into more power than it is for Arias. That said, I like Arias's bat quite a bit better. So, I'm always going to go with the bat first.
Yeah, he's a bigger dude. Lombard is. He's got like 3 inches and 20 pounds or whatever on Arias. So that just kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So my guy that I'm going to talk about is a guy that that I love because we did our FYPD and I drafted him. And then we're in a league together where I also drafted him in the FYPD. And that is Dax Kilby. So Dax Kilby, just a freaking ridiculous little intro here because this guy only played in 81 plate appearances. We don't have games played on here. But in 81 plate appearances, 86.7% contact rate, more walks than Ks, 90.5 zone contact, and 16 steals. I think it was 18 games, 16 steals in 18 games. And then the EVs, 92.5 average, 104.5 90th, 108.9 max. Now, he didn't get to great angles, 54% ground ball rate, but it's a smaller sample size here. And angles, you really don't get angles stabilizing until like 450 or like 500 plate appearances or something like that. So it's like, as far as like batted ball profiling, you're not going to learn anything in 81 plate appearances. But what we did learn is that he hits the ball hard, he steals bags, and he has good contact rates because contact rates actually do stabilize very quickly, unlike batted ball profiles. So super interesting player here, 6'2", 192. Like I think my FYPD rankings, I've got him at number 3 overall. So super high on Dax Kilby. I've got him as a top 40 prospect. Or what do I have him at? 40. It's either 40 or 41. Let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, 43. I've got him at 43 overall right now in my prospect rankings. So I'm a huge fan of Dax Kilby. And I think I got you on board now, Ross.
Well, I mean, I was on board. I think I was surprised to find that there was somebody that was higher than me on him already. I think that that was the real shocker. And I guess I got to get used to this. You know, there's other formulated system guys out there. So I was seeing it because he's an STS darling as well. And I mean, you just nailed it. You picked him super early in that draft. And I was like, hey, I thought I was going to have a shot to get this guy later, just didn't work out for me. But I think you just made a very compelling case for why he could be probably much higher than even 40. I think the one risk is, does all that underlying data that you just quoted translate into more power? That's what we haven't seen for sure. Evidence of 0 home runs. We've seen the speed, a lot of stolen bases. We've seen that in play. Great overall profile, walked more than he struck out. And I always love that. I'm a plate discipline guy. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm glad you picked him as somebody to highlight because he's a really interesting talent.
I'll tell you, I got put to the test, Ross. So in the Scott White Dynasty League, I'm co-managed with Raymond Atherton, who used to do the show with me back before I got heavy duty into prospects. And he's like, I don't know prospects. He's like, you need someone else. And that's when Doc started doing the show with me. So like we had the 6th pick and we had to pick between Eli Willits and Kilby. And part of me really wanted to just pick Kilby just because I'm like, I think he's got a higher power speed upside, but I had to go. We went Willits and I had to just because there's a little bit more pedigree there with, it's just a safer profile, I guess. Like he had just as good a contact rates when he debuted. I'm just like, I don't know if he's got the same power upside, but I did go Willits ahead of Kilby, but it was tough. It ripped me apart. It tore me apart. I almost hoped someone drafted one of those guys right in front of me just so I didn't have to choose. But I had to choose Willits over Dax.
I think you made the right choice, but yeah, I can see why that would be a tough one. You almost want to get worse draft position so you can get the guy you really want rather than the guy you think you should take.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, one of those situations for sure. So now we're going to dig into the top 10. Number 10 is Caitlin Culpepper. So like I mentioned, I've got Dax Kilby at 43. I've got Eli Willits at 41. So shortstop is super deep. All these guys that we're going to talk about, these top 10, are all top 40 guys for me. I don't know. Do all these guys here fall kind of into that range for you too, Ross?
I would say that is pretty true across the board, with the exception of this gentleman that we're talking about, who I'm a little bit lower on. Not vastly lower on him, but I was called out because he did not make my top 100.
Caitlin Culpepper, not in the top 100 for you, huh?
He's a bubble guy for me. He's on the bubble.
Okay, I get that. I think I had him at like 110. And let me see. I actually have it written down. No, like halfway through the season, I had him at like 110 or something like that. But I've bumped him all the way to 39 over the last couple. So I'm gonna throw up his F scores here so we can all look at his statistics as we're talking about him. It's Caitlin Culpepper, a 107 power, 102 hit, 103 discipline, 107 speed. So these types of guys I really like. While they don't have maybe the highest ceiling, I don't like Culpepper. I comped to Dansby Swanson. So I'm like, okay, I think he's going to be like a really good starter. But I don't think he's going to become like a superstar. So like, I get to see why people wouldn't be much higher on him. Like he would break anywhere near even like, it doesn't even matter if he could be, they'd say, oh, he's going to come up tomorrow. And I still probably wouldn't have him as like a top 25 or 30 prospect just because those guys have much higher upside than Culpepper does, in my opinion. But I think he's just good at everything across the board. And like these guys who are like between 100 to 110 on the F score tools across the board are all just really nice because I'm like, okay, these guys are probably going to transition in the majors pretty nicely. They're probably not going to struggle too much when they actually do. Maybe the top 100 or the first 100 plate appearances. But after that, I think they're going to stabilize pretty quickly. And he does have proximity on his side. I mean, the Twins are like the most injured organization of all time. And he's been at AA, so like there's a pretty good shot of him breaking camp, or like not breaking camp, debuting, like I would say like mid-season this year sometime. But I think he could be, like a 15-20 guy, 15-25 maybe. Pretty interesting player, solid batting average, doesn't strike out too much. So I like Culpepper for those reasons, not really because I think he's going to become a superstar, but I just think he's going to be a very solid major league player for a long time.
I think the numbers totally scream what you just said. Across the board, he looks solid. Not like one area that he's really strong at, but I mean, if you look at just the counting stats, 20 home runs, 25 stolen bases, that's pretty cool. But the slash line isn't what I would call sexy. It's not bad. Like it's very solid. It's very solid as you were saying. I'm looking at his scout grade equivalencies at STS as we're talking through this, and they're pretty much like above average, average to above average across the board. So what you're describing is exactly what the data is showing me here as well. Very solid. I think that that's probably where I get a little hung up too, is I want something a little flashier. I want something that I
Yeah.
can, like something meaty that I can dig my teeth into. And even a guy like Lombard, some of these other guys that we've talked about, Arias, I can see there being like this. There, if just one thing clicks, we got a superstar, and I think that that's what we're lacking here. I don't think that there's one thing that can click that will change everything for him, because he
Yeah,
already
he's
does it
just
all
like
pretty decently.
yeah, he's like above average at everything, whereas like Arias for sure has like an elite hit tool. So it's like you just prefer like the one like a guy that has maybe like one super tool or one elite tool over the guy who's like pretty well rounded.
Yeah, or you can just see that next step coming. At at 22, he wasn't exactly what I would think as being like a super young guy for the mid levels of the minor leagues either. So there's that as well. Like you got Lombard at 20. It's like that's 2 years that he can develop and show us that like he actually has those tools to translate as a successful major leaguer. So I think that that's really the only difference I see between them. But you're right, it's very steady profile.
Yeah, and I know John will be displeased with me if I don't mention that he is Dante Culpepper's son. So, if you're into the bloodlines thing, not quite major league bloodlines to major league bloodlines, but definitely professional athlete bloodlines, and maybe that at least
Yeah,
bodes well for like his workout routines and like the guy knows what it takes to be a professional athlete because Culpepper was around for a long time. So like at least he knows like what it takes to be a professional athlete and stay in a game for a long time.
of course, and in the Minnesota organization. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. A dream come true. And
Yeah.
number 9, we've got Bryce Rayner, super underrated. I actually got berated. I can't remember like by like one or two different people. They were like, "You don't have Bryce Rayner in the top 25. Like, what is wrong with you?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "He was hurt," and I thought I was going to be high on him at 37. But apparently, there's people drafting him as like a top 25 guy right now. And I just did another 30 teamer where we did a first year player draft for the MLB Data Warehouse 30 teamer, and we did like a prospect draft. And Bryce Rayner, I think, was picked as like a top 20 guy. And I'm like, man, I was like, I love Bryce Rayner. I was actually, and you might remember, but I was Bryce Rayner over Connor Griffin. I think we talked about it like not this last year, but the year before when we did the first year player draft thing, because Doc picked Connor Griffin. And I was like, I like Rayner a little bit better, I think. And so like that's how much I liked Rayner. But he was hurt. And like I guess the thing is like I thought there was going to be a ton of value on Rayner coming in to this year. I was like, he was hurt. People are going to forget about him, but like everyone is just so on him right now. He had an amazing season before he got hurt too. So like, I probably would have him like top 25 if he never got hurt, but me putting him at 37, I thought I was going to be high on him. Where are you currently standing on Bryce Rayner?
I mean, it's like I'm talking in a mirror. That's what it sounds like because I had the exact same experience when we talked about that before Connor Griffin and Bryce Rayner. I was like on the fence and I was thinking about putting Rayner above Griffin. I just wasn't quite sure. I was waiting for a little bit more data to point me one direction or the other. And then of course Rayner got hurt and Connor Griffin just exploded through the rest of the season. And that in hindsight looks really bad. Uh, but it's so fascinating because since then, he's actually grown in his prospect value. And I like you, I held on to the position that I think I had him in the 30s at that time. And I held on to that for a while. And then I was like, you know what? Injury uncertainty. I'm going to drop him a little bit. And I slowly dropped him over time. And now all of a sudden, yeah, top 25 kind of hype. And I just have to wonder how much of that is like associated with Connor Griffin's rise. Like if people were thinking, oh, Bryce Rayner's maybe close to as good as Connor Griffin, like they thought that the trajectory would follow him as he rose to be number one, and maybe that's why he's getting this interesting helium. But I don't know. I mean, I'm as perplexed by that whole situation as you are. Right now, I have him ranked number 68, and I thought I was high on him too. See,
Yeah.
now I'm just like you, just a little bit more extreme with it. Like I'm even a little bit lower on him. So then when all of a sudden people were saying you're way low on Rainer, it's like, really? I like him, you know? It's just
Yeah.
shocking. It's interesting how that has evolved. I am a fan of Rainer, but I need to see it. I need to see him playing and be healthy and know that he's going to continue to play as he is and maybe take it up a notch. You know, I think I was hoping he was going to take the step that we saw Connor Griffin take, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. He might. I mean, like he was good in his small sample size. So 11% barrel rate. He was hitting line drives. 107.990th percentile EV is ridiculous for a high school guy.
yeah.
111.6 max EV. You know, he can run too. So that's why, that's one of the reasons why I don't like the Corey Seager comp. A lot of people throw this Corey Seager comp on him just because he's a left-handed hitting shortstop. Because everyone likes to comp every left-handed hitting shortstop to Corey Seager. Heard the same thing with Montgomery from the White Sox forever. So it's like, okay, every left-handed hitting shortstop for the next 10 years is going to be Corey Seager, I guess. But the comp that I threw on him is I called him a lefty Carson Williams with a better hit tool because he has the same mechanics as Carson Williams. He's got the same leg kick and everything like that. And everyone is like, Carson Williams can't hit. And I'm like, well, I said he's a lefty version with a better hit tool. Like you have to read the whole comp, don't just read like the name and that's it. But yeah, I think he's got a better hit tool, but there's more speed in there than what Corey Seager ever had. So don't forget that he can actually run a little bit too. So like I wouldn't just throw a Corey Seager on him just because he's a lefty shortstop. But
well, on the flip side of that, Corey Seager was the number one prospect. So it's flattering in a way.
yeah, I agree. I guess so. Number 8 here. This is like I can't believe he's still a prospect, but he is. So it's Jordan Lawler. Like I marked him in red because I'm just don't even want to rank this guy anymore because I didn't even rank him in my top 150 this last time around. I like this guy and Marcelo Mayer have been ranked way too many times. I'm not ranking either of them. So I did not rank him. So he has no prospect ranking for me. But since he's still a prospect, I decided to throw him on this list just for fun. But I kind of like that they're going to throw him in the outfield because it means that he's going to get shot and play at least. But he was really good in the minors. So everyone's going to look at his major league numbers and not like him. And this is what's interesting is I just did an Otnu draft, I guess 2 nights ago now. And when I did that, I was like, I want Jordan Lawler for like $3 or something like that. I was like $2, $3, $4, something like that, because he's going to play. He's shortstop eligible. He's third base eligible. And then he's going to get outfield eligibility. I was like, I want this guy on my bench. So I'm thinking I'm going to get him in the 16-team Otnu league for like $3, $4 something dollars. And I think he went for like $12. Like, what the? I'm like, what the hell just happened? And it's because he's hot this spring. Like he's had a good spring, and it's just the spring helium, just like it destroys value on some of these guys. The spring helium, like I think Jacob Melton went for like $8 or $9 in this thing. I'm like, what? I'm like, what is going on here? Just the spring helium. But yeah, the F scores really like him because he was really good in the minors. 115 power, 102 hit, 101 discipline, 119 speed. 20 steals, solid EVs. The knock against Lawler is that he has trouble against breakers. So one thing that we can do here on MLB Data Warehouse is we can look at this. It says B versus P type. That's batter versus pitch type. So we're going to select this right here. We're going to pull up Jordan Lawler so we can actually see how bad he was against other pitches. So we got here 85% contact rate against fastballs. That's good. But sweepers, terrible 55% contact rate, 105 batting average against sweepers. Kid can't hit a sweeper. Changeup, 154 batting average on a changeup, 54% contact rate. That's pretty bad. He hits fastballs good. He hits sinkers. He hits cutters. He can even hit the slider, but it's for whatever reason, the sweepers and changeups just destroy him. So that's kind of the knock on Lawler, is just he just hasn't been able to hit off speed and breaking pitches. So it'll be interesting to see if this changes at all once we get like new data on this. This is his minor league data from last year, and see if he has changed his approach, because I'm assuming this is probably what he was working on like all offseason. Like if I was his hitting coach, I would have been like, just get in the machine, kid. We're not going to throw you a single fastball. We're just going to pump breakers at you from the machine. But how are you feeling about Jordan Lawler right now? Like how is the temperature in Rossland on Jordan Lawler?
Well, I mean, he's struggled as a major leaguer, right? And so everybody's faded him. I usually go the opposite direction of what everybody else is doing. So to me, I still am pretty high on Lawler. He's still a performer in the minor leagues, man. He still crushes it overall. It's just interesting to look at the last couple of years of his stat lines, the straight up stat lines, comparing his major league performance to his minor league performance. It's like night and day. And he's at that age now where it's like he's got to figure it out. He's got to be a major league hitter, or nobody's going to care about him. But I think it's a buy opportunity. So I'm in on him. I'm still relatively high on him. I think he could be a interesting player, and we've seen it before where all of a sudden this just clicks with guys where, they were having that perfect example. Mike Trout, came up, granted he was 19 years old, so there's a little caveat, but he came up and he struggled. His first taste of major leagues just happens. And then you give these guys a little bit more playing time and the talent finally shines through. And I think that that's what we could get with Lawler. I'm hopeful for it. So I remain pretty high on him overall.
Yeah, good to hear that I'm not the only one. And apparently other people are too. So watch out if you're planning to draft Jordan Lawler and you think you're going to get a good value on him. This spring training helium is ridiculous on him right now.
Well, and that was the other thing I wanted to say is don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. But hey, buy Lawler. Don't fall for spring training ever, but buy Lawler.
I like that. Next guy on the list is Colt Emerson. So I might be lower than on Colt than a lot of other guys. I've got him at 19 overall. So we're number 7 on shortstop, but that doesn't mean I don't like the guy. I've got him at 19 overall. There are people that have Colt Emerson as like a top 10 prospect. I do not, because I just don't know how much power we're actually going to get out of him eventually. Because right now he kind of profiles a little bit just like Kalen Culpepper, but like a better like a much better version of Kalen Culpepper, I suppose, where it's like, okay, we've got power here. And what else is going to happen here with Kalen Culpepper or with Colt Emerson? But the second half, he really came into his own and started developing a lot more power. So if you look through his first season, it's gonna be, sorry, my screen just went with my stats. He had 16 homers on the season. So let's throw this up here so everyone can see if you're watching on YouTube or Xvision and follow along with us. So Colt Emerson, 16 home runs, 101 power tool, 104 hit, 110 discipline, 102 speed, right? Pretty Kalen Culpepper-esque. However, if we move our slider to like the last month or so of the season, we'll put it at 8.3. So last month and a half of a season, then we're looking at an 852 OPS. We're looking at 5 bombs. And you can see that as he was going up levels, he was actually coming into more and more power. It's smaller sample sizes we're looking at when we see that, but he was getting more power, and a 135 extra base hit plus is good too. So Colt Emerson, even though he hasn't hit 20 home runs or whatever in the minors yet, he has always hit a crap load of doubles. So he's always been like a big doubles guy. Even when he's in the fall league, I think he had like he was like either tied for the record or had like the record for the most doubles in Arizona Fall League. I guess that was not this last year, but the year before that. So keep that in mind too, is like doubles power generally will be a leading indicator for future home run power, and he may develop into 25 homer power, I think. But I don't know if there's going to be that much more there. So, what do you think, Ross? Like how much power are we going to get out of Emerson, and like how high are you on him? Because I think he's going to be a really, really good player. I just like I guess like I think the ceiling is at like all-star level and maybe not like superstar level.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I like Colt Emerson quite a bit. I've been pretty high on him for a number of years. In fact, going back maybe 2 years ago, I thought he had the potential to rise to become the number one prospect. I don't think he's quite reached that level. I have him at number 11 overall right now. So he's borderline top 10 for me. Just a very solid profile, as you were saying. But the difference here between him and a guy like Culpepper is he was in AAA and he was 19, and Culpepper was in AA at the high point, at 22. So the 3 year gap to me is a really big differentiator between those two, which just signals to me that the Colt Emerson ceiling is substantially higher. We were talking about Corey Seager as a comp earlier, and from a statistical standpoint, I think this looks like a Corey Seager type of profile to me. This is a guy I could see kind of turning into that sort of a
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if he gets to 30 homer power, maybe like a Corey Seager light. I can agree with that because I think he's going to be a high batting average guy. Hopefully he stays on the field more than Corey Seager though, right?
Well, that year that Corey Seager, I just am kind of thinking back to when he was coming up, and that year he really rose the ranks to become the number one guy. I think he was 21 years old in AAA at that time. So I think we're like right on the money. I mean, Colt Emerson's barely 20 right now. He's 20 and a half or so. But I mean, yeah, we'll see if he gets into the major leagues. Like, he could be up right away. This is a guy that could be playing right from the get go in the major leagues. We'll see. But I think that there's probably some development to happen. Whether that happens at the big league level or he spends more time in AAA, I don't know yet. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I think that 30 home runs is possible. It's maybe a stretch though.
Yeah. Interesting to see where he ends up and if he breaks camp. So Colt Emerson definitely a name to watch on or watch this spring. So check those box scores on Colt Emerson to see how well he's playing. See if he breaks camp. Number 6 is Leo DeVries with the Athletics, formerly of the Padres. I've got him at 14 overall. Definitely really interesting player here. I kind of worry a little bit about the hit tool with DeVries is like the one tool that I worry about. He's not as polished as It's kind of funny because like a lot of people will be like, oh, Jesus Mate is like the Leo DeVries, but like 1 year later or whatever. But Mate is much more polished than DeVries is, which I guess like there's a reason that most prospect people have Mate ahead of DeVries now at this point. But Leo DeVries, full season, 19 years old, high A and double A. So 19-year-old at double A, very impressive. And a young 19-year-old at that. And while he does have good contact rates, 78.2% contact, 80.5 at double A, it's just the angles. He hasn't really gotten to the angles as of yet. And he has struggled against lefties as a switch hitter. So this may be an instance where is he really a true switch hitter? Should he be switch hitting, or is he just like forcing it so that he has more tools? That's something to watch as he grows. I think the Athletics could be super aggressive and like push him to the majors sooner than you might think. Do they need to? No, because they have Jacob Wilson. But I guess they can always slide Jacob Wilson over to second base next year. They have McNeil there for this year, I guess. So you think, and I don't know if Galoff is like even a guy anymore. Like, I don't even know if they even care about him anymore at this point. Is he even in their plan for the future? But I think longer term, it's like, okay, DeVries kind of is like super rangy, athletic-y. Like you almost think that like Wilson would be the guy to move and Leo would stay short. But love the 165 age adjusted WRC plus. So like the dude is definitely a baller for what he's done, like age to level. But I just don't know if he's going to get to the right angles that you want for massive damage. Even though I do have him comped to a switch hitting Alfonso Soriano.
Okay, that's interesting. So I'm going to go a different direction here. I like Leo DeVries. Made and him, I think, they are. It's like you almost have to talk about the two together because I think that there's probably some different camps. And you're right. I think the majority probably favor Made. I actually have Leo DeVries one spot higher than Made. So that really kind of speaks to how good I think he could be. But what I am seeing here is pretty strong power and a hit tool that's, you're right, there's some questions and concerns there, but also he gets on base too, and that kind of covers up for it. Have you heard the famous X comp for Leo DeVries?
No. What's that?
Michael Jordan.
What?
Yeah, that's what they called him early last year, Michael Jordan of, I guess, baseball prospects or baseball in general. So, so keep that in mind. Michael Jordan, he's coming up. No, but seriously, the 90th percentile outcome comp at STS is Mike Schmidt. That's a Hall of Fame comp right there. So we'll see how it translates, but I'm excited to see him come up. And being with the A's, I mean, that was such an interesting deal. I can't believe that the Padres were willing to trade him to begin with, and just a fascinating deal. But
yeah.
Yeah, I like him. He's a top 10 guy for me.
Something to consider too is like he kind of has like sneaky non-speed. Like people assume because he looks fast that he's going to be fast. But I only give him a 40 out of 50 on the speed tool. Like I give him a 50 out of 60 on the hit, 55 on the plate approach, 50 out of 60 on the power. And then I only give him a 40 out of 50 on the speed because I'm like, he looks way more athletic and like looks like he can run faster than he actually does. So something to keep in mind. But like I love the swing for sure. Like that every time I watch that, I'm just like reminds me of it, like brings me back to Soriano days. So I love the swing for DeVries. The next guy.
Swing.
Yeah, the next guy I have is Sebastian Walcott. And like now after the injury, I'll tell you, I would probably be moving Sebastian Walcott below DeVries and Colt Emerson at this point and have him like 7th, like pretty close to like Rainer and Lawler. I don't know. I might even bump Rainer and Lawler ahead of him, to be honest, now at this point, because he's going to miss a whole year. Because one of the big edges with Walcott was the fact that he was like always above age to level. And like now he's going to kind of lose that advantage. Like he's going to have a whole missing year of development because he's just so advanced for his age. Where like long term, I don't think it's going to really affect him because it's kind of like, okay, he was already ahead of the game anyway. I guess is like if you're trying to find like the sunny side up, like you'll be like, okay, it's fine that Walcott's going to miss a year because he was already way ahead. Like the average age of AA is like 22 and a half. He was 19. Like it's going to be fine. He'll, get healthy. And then next year he'll break at AAA or like he'll do like a little rehab thing where he's at like A ball for 5 games and high A for 5 games, AA for 10 games, then goes up to AAA. Probably is what's going to happen. You see that a lot with guys like that. Even Painter did that when he came back from injury, right? So it's like maybe you see something like that for Walcott, and then he's up at AAA as a 20-year-old, and it's not really that big of a deal. But like for now, for his value, like if we're considering these prospects from a value standpoint, you're like, okay, this really dings his value for fantasy leagues. So like his value now is hurt versus what it was. So I guess you kind of have to put him down some spots just from a value perspective rather than from like a real life. Hey, it's okay. He was young for his age anyway. He's 6'4", 190. The kid will be fine. He'll be 20 at AAA. Like it's not going to be the end of the world. Right.
Yeah. So I've been kind of knocked for being too low on Walcott by people out there occasionally. And I was finally starting to warm up to him, and then this happens. I I do have him lower than the other couple gentlemen that we just talked about, but I was starting to move him up. I was starting to get used to the idea, even though like on the surface, I think people look at it and see that he had a somewhat of a down year. At least the power wasn't quite there. I see development in the profile, as in it seems like he was becoming a more well-rounded hitter throughout the season and really flashing pretty good on base skills for a guy that was, barely 19 starting last year. I'd say that was pretty impressive. So, uh, yeah, I was finally coming around, and then all of a sudden this happens. So it's a real bummer. It's a real bummer. At least I don't have to adjust as much as most other people do. But yeah, he's got to drop a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, like 6'4", 190. He's gonna with his EVs, like he's gonna be a 30 homer guy. I think if he can make enough contact, it's all about like if he can make enough contact and not strike out. But less a lower than 20% strikeout rate last year. It's just like
Yep.
okay, he got hurt. Like hopefully that doesn't affect his mechanics too much, and he doesn't come back like a hot mess, and kind of like can pick up where he left off. Is the hope with Sebastian Walcott, because like a huge dude like that. Like he just has so much, like he has massive power potential. Like, like 5'10", 5'11" shortstop, they just can't dream of getting into the power that he can possibly get into. So,
Yeah, well, to your point, I mean, the fact that this year he was showing more all around bat skills is why I was starting to warm up and get excited about him, because he's always had that reputation as kind of a power first shortstop who's gonna, one of those kind of prototypical like big shortstops that you sometimes see come up and become huge mashers. So the fact that he was showing pretty good all around skills this year is really what made me kind of change my attitude about him. Things happen.
yep. Number 4 is Aiden Miller. I saw Aiden Miller last year, actually. And I think I've talked about it before on the podcast. So sorry if you've heard this before. But when I saw him, I actually got like a pretty bad look at him. I think he was like 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts to start the game. And then the fourth at bat, they were winning by a lot. They were winning like 11-2 or something. And he could have just mailed it in and be like, this game doesn't matter. Like, I've already struck out 3 times. Like, whatever. But I think he had like an RBI double in his fourth at bat. And I was like, oh, nice. And then someone hit like a single and he ran like so fast from second to home. And I was like, oh man. I was like, this dude's a gamer. I was like 11-2 game. You're on the second base. It's a ground ball. You don't have to run home on that. You could just run to third. Like you're already winning 11-2. Like it doesn't really matter. Like he could have easily just like kind of jogged into third and be like, dude, this game doesn't matter. We're already up like by 10 runs or whatever. But he sprinted at like top speed all the way home. And I was like, oh man, like I love that. Cause I'm just like, okay, that means that this guy, like he doesn't care like about like he's in it to like just be the best he can possibly be. Like go like full throttle all the time, even when you're 11-2 in like an A-ball game where it's like, who cares? Like that was very impressive to me. And then this year, this dude just massive strides forward in the hit tool. I've got him at 12 overall now, Ross. I don't know how high you are on Aiden Miller. But I threw a 55 out of 60 on the hit, 55 out of 60 on the plate approach, 55 out of 60 on the power, and then a 65 on the speed. Because he had like 52 steals or whatever this year. So I'm just like, this is one of my biggest risers, and I was already pretty high on him. Like a lot of people were, like I had him in 30 or whatever. But the strides that he made forward in his hit tool, like an 82.5% contact rate at AAA, 88.2% zone, just super impressive to me. What he was doing at that level.
So I'm quite a bit lower on him than where you have him right now, but that isn't to say that I'm low on him. Personally, I actually am fairly excited about Aiden Miller. I think where that comes from is early on last year, he was really struggling, like really struggling. And I think I was starting to, wonder if Aiden Miller was a bit of a fraud, and I was wrong. I was totally wrong. So, especially in like August forward, he was just a machine, just a monster masher. And so he's on a really good trend. He was a riser through the second half of last year. pretty dominant, I would say, actually. And now I'm kind of like, well, I think this guy's primed for a midseason call up. That's kind of where I'm at with him. So even though I have him lower in my rankings, I'm not low on him. I'm actually fairly excited for him. But I did drop him so much that he had a lot of room to climb back up. So here's what the STS model has for his scout grade equivalencies, because this matches up fairly well with what you got. 55 hit, 50 power, 70 speed, and it's probably 70 because there's no 65s in our system. It goes 60, 70, 80. And then there's 55s, of course. And then defense 50. So I don't know how well the defense stacks up. That's fairly new metric for us, but yeah, I mean it's pretty close to what you were saying you've scouted with the eye. So that's pretty awesome to see. And yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm okay
Yeah.
with your placement of him. I think it's maybe a tad high, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, F scores really love him. So I mean, like he's got a 117 power on the F scores, 100 hit tool, 111 discipline, 129 speed, and then 161 age adjusted. Since he was like a young 21 at the beginning, or I guess you finished the season as a young 21, AAA. So that's going to
Yeah.
bump him a little bit in that stat. But yeah, like you said, like from August onward, he had over 1,000 OPS, almost 1,100 OPS.
Yeah.
So like his from July 28th until the end of the season, he had a 357, 489, 601 slash.
It's insane.
That's crazy. With more walks than Ks, by the way. With more walks than Ks and an almost 80% contact rate. And the dude almost had 60 steals last year.
I don't even know how that happens with how poor he was. I think he was batting like 190 halfway through the season. He was really struggling. And then all of a sudden it was just like a 100% different player. I mean, sometimes you see that it's a game of streaks, but it's not usually that extreme, you know? And for extended periods of time too. It wasn't just like a week here or there. It was like long stretches.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out if he changed something in his mechanics. If he like changed it could be anything, with a hitter, it could be anything from like how close your hands are to your head to how you're doing your toe tap. It could be like anything. So,
All right. It's a game of, millimeters and minor adjustments, of course.
yeah. So number 3 on the list is Jesus Mate for me. So I'm gonna throw up his F scores for us right here. If you give me 1 second. So Jesus Mate, I've mentioned this on a couple other podcasts before, where I've had guys on. I'm like, Jesus Mate is like the one true switch hitter. Like this guy, I'm gonna show this right now if you're watching. But his slash 289 against righties, 283 against lefties, 383 OBP against righties, 372 against lefties, 417 slug against righties, 414 against lefties. This is like the closest split that you're gonna see for a switch hitter out there. So like this dude like literally is like the true switch hitter out of like all these, DeVries is a switch hitter or whatever, but like this guy like is like what a switch hitter should be doing. 18-year-old at AA last year, 174 H adjusted WRC plus, just insane stuff for him. 47 steals too, so it's tons of speed. And obviously, like as a younger guy, 6'1", 187, only 6 home runs. Like he's going to grow into more power. He has some ridiculous exit velocities. We don't have that data from the minor leagues last year, but we have had like reports of like Dominican exit velocities when he was in the DSL. We have reports from like spring training exit velocities. So that's really all we can go on for exit velocities. So small sample sizes where like a max is going to matter more than like an average or something like that. But the dude does hit the ball really hard. So he's going to grow into more power as he ages. I think Mate is just going to be an absolute stud. The reason that he's ranked 3 is because the 2 guys that I had ahead of him are just also absolutely ridiculous. I've got Mate. A lot of people have Mate number 3 in their rankings. I think I've got him at number, where do I have him right now? Where do I have him? I don't have him at number 3. I've got him at 6 or 7, I think. Because I've got him at number 7 overall in my rankings. So I did not rate, by the way, in case you're asking, where's JJ Weatherholt? I did not rank JJ Weatherhold as a shortstop because he's not going to end up there. It looks like Mason Wynn came out yesterday and was like, "Oh, I'm excited to turn double plays with him for the next 10 years." So like, even though I thought JJ could play third, Mason Wynn basically confirmed that he's going to be the second baseman. So if you want JJ Weatherhold, then go to our second base podcast. But how are you feeling about Jesus Mate?
Yeah, you pretty much covered it all. He's the number 3 prospect overall at Prospects Live. People are really excited about him. There's superstar potential, obviously. I think the one hangup is while there's a belief that there's more underlying power, we haven't quite seen it yet. So that's the one thing that's holding me back. I'm kind of where you are, and I have him number 10 overall rather than, a top 3 guy. But he is kind of getting to that level where he's almost universally considered a top 3 prospect. And you can't deny the finish that he had to his season. And this is the part that is the most impressive to me because in single A, I was kind of like, yeah, this guy is pretty solid, but I'm not seeing the superstar that is getting tagged on him. And then, of course, he moved up to high A. And what did he do? He crushed it. And then he got a promotion to double A and he held his own. So, I had to eat a little bit of crow on that because this guy finished the season really strong as he was moving up. That's what you want to see. So, yeah, he's a very interesting prospect. I like him a lot.
My confirm is a switch hitting infield Christian Yelich.
Wow, okay. There's a bit of a size difference there, isn't there? Seems like Yelich is taller, leaner as a build.
A little bit. Let's actually look that up right now. So Mate is listed at 6'1", 187. Yelich is 6'4", 220. So Yelich is definitely taller. But they're like, yeah, but they have, to me, when Mate is hitting from the left side, they've got similar swing mechanics. And I think from a batting line, maybe you see something similar where Yelich didn't really have much power early in his career, and he kind of grew into it as he aged. When he started, he was like a 300 hitter who was going like 10 homers, 20 steals or whatever. So you might see that from Mate in his like couple beginning years before he kind of like grows into his power because he's going to come up so early. Yelich did too. Yelich debuted at the age of 21. So,
I got to tell you an old Dynasty story about Yelich. I had him on my team for years, and I always thought power was going to come. And then we saw some glimpses of it. He had like a 21 home run season or something like that. I traded him the year before he became an MVP. I was like, okay, I don't think it's going to happen anymore. Time to move on. And the next year, it was like, guy was lights out. Go figure. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, I've always been upset because I live in Miami. I lived in Miami. I live in Jupiter now, but I lived in Miami for like 10 years, and I had Marlins season tickets back when Yelich was on the Marlins.
Oh yeah.
And this report came out. I'm a Cardinals fan, right? This report comes out, and it's like the Cardinals are interested in one of the Marlins outfielders. And I was like, please get Yelich. Please don't get Ozuna. I was like, I've seen these guys so much. I was like, I know Ozuna's not going to be good for the Cardinals. Please get Yelich. And then they trade for Ozuna. Ozuna's like getting into fights in East St. Louis with Carlos Martinez instead of playing. Like his worst years of his whole career were in St. Louis. And then Yelich goes on to become like an MVP for the Brewers. And I'm just like, yep. I was like, I knew that was going to happen. I was like, they're like, oh, we need power. And I'm just like, okay, I knew that was going to happen because I've watched the Marlins for a long time. So anyway, we'll get to number 2 here. The professor, Kevin McGonigal, made a really nifty play the other day. And these two guys, like I asked Jeff Ponce when he was on the podcast, so I'm going to ask you too. I asked Jeff Ponce, I think McGonigal is going to get a lot of playing time this year. I think he plays what I told Jeff is I think McGonigal is maybe like a Super 2 guy where he gets called up in like May or whatever, or like whenever the Super 2 thing ends, so that Detroit can get an extra year of eligibility on him. They're going to be like, oh, Scoople's going to leave, so we need to save some money. I don't know. That was my whole thought process, and that was before they signed Framber. And then I was like, I don't think Connor Griffin's going to come up until like after the trade deadline because the Pirates are just that cheap. I was like, if they were going to call him up, they would have already signed him. We'll talk more about Connor Griffin later, but I just wanted to ask you this. Like, what is your ETA on these guys? Because like Jeff thinks both these guys get more than 450 plate appearances this year. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. But Connor Griffin has been amazing this spring. So maybe the Pirates don't even have a choice. Like he's going to force his way onto the roster where like Pirates fans are going to like riot if he doesn't make the team. But McGonigal's playing himself to breaking camp right now at this point too, because he's looked really good. So like where are you at on ETAs for these two guys?
So my position on this has been the same as it was at the end of last season, that McGonigal was going to break camp and that Connor Griffin we'd probably see later. I thought he needed a little bit more time in the minor leagues. At this point, with the hype and how Connor Griffin has performed in spring, it's early still, but I kind of get the impression that we might see both of these guys up real early. I think I'm maybe aligning with Ponce on we might be seeing over 450 plate appearances from both these guys this year.
Yeah, that's crazy. But take that into consideration if you're drafting in a redraft league right now, because they could be complete game changers. Like McGonigal might be like one of the top 3 second basemen or something right off the bat. Or I guess it looks like he's gonna play short if he comes up. So it depends on like what kind of eligibility you get. Like honestly, I'd really like if he does get second base eligibility in your leagues, because second base is terrible. But yeah, so so we'll throw up some stats right here for McGonigal real quick. I think there are a few people out there that have McGonigal at 1 instead of 2. But more or less, these guys are like the top 2 guys, or unless like you have Chase Burns, just like most people are going to push pitchers down, but unless you have Chase Burns at number 1. But McGonigal, I threw a 60 out of 70 on the hit. Like I'm not going to go full Baseball America and get him a great hit tool here, but I gave him a 60 out of 70. Plate approach, I gave him a 70 on the plate approach, a 55 out of 60 on the power, and then a 45 out of 50 on the speed. The stolen bases slowed down this year, but last year in 2024, he had 22 steals at a 92% clip. Or I don't think he's going to be like a 20 steal guy. I think he could probably get like 10 or 15 steals for you in a season. And he has more like he has sneaky power. Like he really got into it this year. In 2024, he wasn't really showing much power. And I was like, I don't know. I kind of have like Kevin McGonigal and Franklin Arias like kind of next to each other in my rankings before he started showing the power. But now that he's really shown that off, like I think he's like a 25 homer guy. Like he's just really good angles, like 56% pull rate. You can see on the screen right here. Only 12.5 air pull, but 56% pull rate. 410s to better power, because this is only 16 batted ball stat we're looking at right here. But like when you watch him, that dude's trying to air pull. Like all his home runs are going that way. So you can just see in the video, because this is small sample size on some of this stuff. But ridiculous contact rates. Kevin McGonigal is the man. How are you feeling about him? And like, where do you have him in Dynasty? Like, how do you feel about him as a Dynasty asset? Because we're doing that Owen Hurd mock right now, Dynasty mock. And I think McGonigal went like in the second round or something of that.
Yeah, that sounds right. I love Kevin McGonigal. By the way, there was a podcast that Prospects Live, or not a podcast, but an interview that we did with him over mid-season last year. And he said he doesn't actually like the nickname The Professor. He likes the nickname Magoo. And so now I've taken up just calling him Professor Magoo. That's the new nickname. That's what I'm going with, Professor Magoo. Yeah. So I thought that was a really interesting little tidbit that I picked up on. But I think you are right on the money. The hit tool is the calling card, and you know how much of a sucker I am for the hit tool. He's my number 1 prospect. And that's the reason why. Now, Connor Griffin is an incredible prospect, do not get me wrong. But if I see a guy that has 80 hit potential, that's pretty hard for me to pass up. And right now, what we're looking at, I've got his player card pulled up at STS, and they give him, and STS is stingy with this stuff. I think there's only 2 prospects that score this high with a hit tool grade. Kevin McGonigal has a 70 for hit, 55 for power, 50 for speed. That's not really going to be his thing. 50 defense, also not going to be his thing, but it's good enough. So I think what we've got here, and there's evidence behind this too. He's walked more than he struck out at every level he's ever played at, including if you break it down to individual levels. The guy is just a hit machine, and nobody's been able to expose him at this point yet. I think he was super unlucky in Double A actually, uh, and he still put up pretty good numbers. So this is a guy I really like. I'm very high on him. Of course, I've got him number one. A lot of people don't like that. It is what it is. I'm sticking with my guns. That's my approach for evaluating players, and so I'm sticking by it. The one thing that sets, well, we can save that for when we get to the next guy, but I I love this guy. He's great. I think he's going to be a really good prospect. I think he's probably a second baseman in the long run. That's where I was hoping he would end up for my fantasy teams, and it looks like he's at least starting in the shortstop area right now. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, he's looked really good so far this spring too. And to get back to that Owen Hurd Dynasty mock, uh, looks like Eric Cross picked him at 35 overall, which is the beginning of the third round. I was going to pick him. I was 2 picks behind, so Eric kind of sniped me a little bit on McGonigal there because I would have picked him. I ended up picking Kyle Schwarber there at that pick, but McGonigal was the name that I had circled there. So that just shows where McGonigal's already viewed right now in Dynasty. He was the second prospect off the board behind Connor Griffin, who's our next guy that we're going to talk about. And Connor Griffin, since we're talking about this thing right now, Connor Griffin went 20th overall, ahead of Vlad Guerrero Jr. This is a little crazy to me. He went ahead of Vlad Guerrero Jr., James Wood, Garrett Crochet, Wyatt Langford. Yeah, a few of those guys I would probably pick ahead of Griffin. But
Yeah,
Roman Anthony went 19. I would pick Connor Griffin, I think, ahead of Roman Anthony, because I think that the prospects that we have right now are kind of a tier above the top prospects from a year ago. And Roman Anthony doesn't really bring a speed component. He does hit the ball really hard, but he doesn't bring the same speed component that Connor Griffin's going to bring to the game. So that's the reason why on that.
I think I'd agree with that take actually.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take Connor Griffin against ahead of some of those other guys that you were talking about, but I would take him ahead of Roman Anthony.
Yes. Yeah, that was my point, is I would take like Wood, Vlad, and Langford still ahead of Connor Griffin. So I'm going to show you. I actually saw Connor Griffin the other day. I don't know if you know this, Ross, but I was at this game and I got video of Connor Griffin here hitting a home run.
Oh, I got to see this.
Look how fast he is, too.
That's the big differentiator. This is what I was going to say with him and McGonigal, the clear difference.
Yeah, he's huge, too, like in person.
Yeah.
I kind of got down. There's like an autograph scrum where he was doing autographs or whatever for people. And I kind of got down there and like I was with my daughter and I was like holding my daughter up. I'm like, put something in there so he signs it. And then didn't get there in time. He was only there for like 3 or 4 autographs and then had to bolt and get ready for the game. But he's humongous. So like he was down on the field and I was in like the 3rd row or 4th row. I was like in the 3rd row seats trying to like push my daughter in there. And like I think that he was the same height as me, even though I was like 3 rows up on the stairs. So that's how big this dude is. And I'm not short. I'm like 6 foot. So yeah, he's a big dude. The dude he's a monster. So Connor Griffin, what do you think he's gonna do? Because like my comp for Connor Griffin is I've got him as Ellie De La Cruz. I comped him. I put light Fernando Tatis Jr. mechanically with an Ellie De La Cruz statistical profile. So I think he's going to kind of be like Ellie, but he might actually get into more power earlier because this spring we're really seeing him with better angles than what he had actually done in the minors last year. So I think that it looks like, because there was tons of video on him this offseason working in the cage, he was probably practicing air pull. Like you see a lot of places nowadays. Like I take my son to this batting coach, former World Baseball Classic player for Team Spain. And so he's got like targets set up in the cage, and like a lot of people have this now. They'll have like targets for air pull on like the top left and the top right, almost like archery targets. Even the Marlins had that in their camp. I actually walked through the Marlins backfields the other day when I was going to this game, and they had those little things set up. And so what they're trying to do is they want you air pulling. So they're trying to teach air pull in these cages. And so he might have just been like practicing air pull the whole time. And like now his angles are going to be like much better because I mean, he was 19 last year. So like there's still so much room for improvement on a guy who is already just ridiculous. So, I mean, sky's the limit. He could be, Acuna, you know what I mean? Like he could do an Acuna 40, whatever, 50-50, 40-40, 50-50 type season. Like he has the skill set to do it. And there are not many guys that come around like this. He's a unicorn. So, like, that's why I have to put Griffin at 1. Even though his hit tool is not nearly the same as McGonagall's. I only have a 50 hit on him. I think he can get to 55. So I got a 50-55 hit on him. The plate approach is much worse too. I got a 45-55 plate approach, but he's 70 power, 70 speed in my mind. As long as he can get to the angles, he'll be 70 power. Even if he doesn't get to the angles, I still have him as a 60. So I got him like a 60-70 power. So even if he's hitting 50% ground balls, I still have got him as a 60 power guy. How do you feel about Connor Griffin?
I mean, he's a phenomenal prospect. I have so many different thoughts. It's hard to really get them all down there. I think your Elly De La Cruz comp is very fair. I think his ceiling is higher than that. I think he's got a better hit tool, a better natural feel for putting the bat on the ball. Doesn't strike out like Elly De La Cruz did coming up. So I think that bodes really well. The sky is the limit, as you said. But now I got to be like the wet towel guy and like throw on, are there any weaknesses in here? And yes, I think there are. You talked about the hit tool, and he batted 333 last year, but he did it with a 400 BABIP. He's not going to do that in the major leagues. That's not going to happen. So you can knock off 50 points easy, 60 points off the batting average. And even so, that's still a really good prospect. It's a really good ball player. So there's very few things to pick at. I'm really good at finding the little nitpicks, so that's why I do it. But extremely exciting talent. The only difference, the reason why I have McGonagall higher is because I believe that hit tool is that much better. But if you're looking for high upside, absolutely no problem with putting Connor Griffin ahead of him. Here's a hot take that I heard today. I have a Dynasty league with our mutual friend Doc, and I have Paul Skeens in this league. He really wants Paul Skeens. He's got Connor Griffin, and he told me today he wouldn't trade Connor Griffin straight up for Paul Skeens. And I was like, well, I wouldn't trade Paul Skeens straight up for Connor Griffin. So we're on the same page, at least in that.
That's good.
He was hyping him up hard. He said, this guy is a top 5 Dynasty asset. And I was like, whoa, and I'm always the wet towel guy. So I was like, hold your horses. I don't know about that. Let's see it first. But he's very excited about him.
Yeah, I would be too. I have 0 shares, so I'm pretty unhappy that I have 0 shares of him. I cannot partake. I also have 0 shares of Kevin McGonigal. So, but I do have a lot of shares of Dylan Beavers and JJ Weatherholt. So I'll throw that those ones out there.
So I've got a lot of McGonigal because he was a guy I was going after hard last year because the model was really picking up on him. Connor Griffin is a different story though because he came in a relatively high FYPD guy. I don't really get high picks in most of my leagues, so I don't really have many opportunities. Plus, I kind of shy away from guys that have no data really to go off of just high school, information. It's like you're reading profiles, you're reading, I don't know, information that is not super reliable or accurate. So that's not really my type of guy to get. So I hardly end up with them. But if they're a guy that comes in and I'm picking up on something that I want, like a McGonigal, that isn't quite fully fleshed out yet, then I'm going to get that guy. So that's like a perfect profile for me, whereas Connor Griffin, it's like the guy's never going to fall my way, unfortunately. And now he's far too expensive. Can't even trade Paul Skeens for him. So
Well, that's a good thing because that means you're winning. If you're not picking high, that means you're winning. So
Yeah,
better to win and not pick high than the opposite version of that.
yeah, that's what I'm
So
going for.
yeah. So Ross, what do you have? Anything else you have to promote or pump on the podcast here before we close it out?
No, not really. Go check us out at prospectslive.com. We're doing amazing stuff over there. Scout the Statline. We just built this really cool integration directly in with Fantrax. If you have leagues there and you play religiously like I do, I mean, you can get an assessment just from a click of a button. You can pull up your league and it'll bring up all the top players from the STS model for it. It's just super cool. And in season, especially if you have free agent waiver ads, like there is nothing like that. So check that out if you're playing on Fantrax and if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the STS model.
Yep, definitely make sure you subscribe to Scout the Stat Line, subscribe at Prospects Live. They've got all kinds of awesome stuff over there. And also subscribe to MLB Data Warehouse and make sure you say it's because of me, so I get money. No, I'm just joking, but no, not really. I'm not joking. Do it, and then also make sure that you buy the prospect package, only $29.99. You'll get my spreadsheets that have all the F scores all heat mapped on it, my prospect rankings, my FYPD. Funny enough, one of my friends texted me today and he's like, dude, your FYPD rankings are like impossible to find on Twitter. It's so hard. I have to like search tweet by tweet and it's like a pain in the ass. And I'm like, I did that on purpose so that people actually pay for the thing and that makes it easy. So I'm like, that just means you're cheap. Pay me the $29.99 so that I can go to more baseball games, man, because that's all it's going toward. All it's doing is buying food for my wife so that I can go to more baseball games, or it's buying my tickets for baseball games. None of that money is actually like going toward any fun toys or anything. It's just going to more baseball games, or it's going to placating my wife and my kids so I can go do this stuff. So that's why you need to pay for the package. But that's it. We will see you next time. Great having you on as always, Ross.
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure.